What is happening, YouTube, and welcome back, guys, to another episode on Mob Talk UK. In this latest episode, we're going to be talking about a very well-known figure within the Manchester gangland scene, and that man is Arran Coghlan. To his friends, Arran Coghlan is a quiet, hard-working company boss and family man. But a prosecutor who handled an earlier unsuccessful murder case against him described Arran in court as someone who has built a crime empire using ruthless violence to achieve his aims. So guys, let's dive right into the story of Arran Coghlan. Now, one of the most interesting things I've personally found about Arran Coghlan is to look at him, to look at his appearance. He doesn't automatically scream out, I'm a gangster. He's not big, he's not flashy, he's not loud, he's not obnoxious. He is, in fact, a very quiet, meek-looking, shrewd man. He keeps his head down, hence why he's been so successful over the years in the gangland scene, and how he's become so respectable and revered over the years within the criminal fraternity. I mean, to look at Arran, he looks more like... I don't want to sound disrespectful, but he looks more like a geeky, quiet librarian as opposed to a hardened criminal gangster. But this has obviously worked in his favour over the years. In 1994, Arran Coghlan was cleared of the murder of Stockport's Mr. Big, Chris Little. The previous episode on the Mob Talk UK details the rise and fall of Chris Little of Stockport, dubbed the Devil Dog Mobster because Chris had a habit of tormenting his rivals with a set of fierce Rottweilers. Chris was shot dead at the wheel of his Mercedes in Marple in July 1994, and Arran stood trial for Chris Little's murder. But he won the trial, he beat the case, and he was cleared of all charges. He walked away a free man, and the case on Chris Little's murder remains unsolved to this day. In 2001, Mr. Coghlan was again charged with murder, this time of petty drug dealer David Barnshaw, who had died a horrible, agonising death 2 years earlier. A nickname that Arran has garnered over the years due to beating various murder trials is the Teflon Don of Manchester. A little bit like the infamous mafia gangster John Gotti back in the day. He was also nicknamed the Teflon Don for beating various trials. The same has been said of Arran Coghlan of Manchester for walking away a free man from various charges. The Teflon Don of Manchester. Going back to the murder of drug dealer David Barnshaw, who was killed in 1999, for which, as I said, Arran stood trial. Barnshaw was kidnapped and forced to drink petrol before being burned alive in the back of his own car on an industrial estate in Lower Bredbury. His final desperate pleas for life were captured on a chilling tape recording made when his friend John Berry, who was locked in the boot of the car, called 999. John Berry managed to escape, but David Barnshaw died a very, very brutal, agonising death. At the murder trial of David Barnshaw, the prosecution opened the trial at Preston Crown Court by saying Arran Coghlan built up his empire with ruthless violence, demanding respect and loyalty from those who worked for him and to whom he supplied drugs. The prosecution at trial went on to say that Arran and his gang dealt severely with those that dared to defy him, who owed him or his gang money or who would not work for him. But despite the prosecution's best efforts, the £5 million trial against Arran and 5 co-accused collapsed in 2003 after it emerged that police had withdrawn evidence from an informant that pointed towards another suspect. The collapse prompted Arran to pursue a civil law claim against Greater Manchester Police. Later in 2005, Arran said he would sue the police again after he was cleared of obstructing an officer. Arran was arrested near Stockport's Pure nightclub by an officer using newly introduced stop and search powers. But this case was dismissed after the arresting officer admitted that he didn't know that under the new legislation he had to ask for consent before conducting a search. 3 years later, Arran Coghlan was left fighting for his life after a frenzied stabbing attack in a bar. He was knifed in the head, face and back at Cobden's in Stockport on New Year's Day, with police at the time linking it to Cheetham Hill gangsters. Speaking from his hospital bed at the time while badly injured, Arran said, "I thought I was doing someone a favour in trying to prevent a bar fight, and I hate to see my past brought up in the press again." I'm a family man who has settled down and moved on since I was cleared of all those allegations years ago. Now, going back in time a little bit, back to Arran's younger years, Arran has in the past been described as being an unremarkable youngster. He was raised in the Hillgate area of Stockport, where he was known as a bit of a joker, a bit of a comedian, the Catholic school class clown who liked to be the centre of attention, it's been stated. One family friend of Arran's once said, Arran's a family man, extremely hard-working, and he employs quite a few people. He tries to keep himself to himself, but he's had problems simply because he's been accused of serious crimes in the past and has been acquitted. He and his family have suffered quite a lot because of that. Arran's a quiet, intelligent man. He's not outspoken or aggressive. He's laid back and genuinely a nice fella. Now, given all that, what is beyond dispute is Arran Coghlan's wealth and his taste for the high life. Arran drives a Bentley Turbo with personalised number plates carrying his nickname as, and he's got a hobby. He collects antique furniture, believe it or not. So Arran is not your typical rough and ready type of Manchester gangster. He does come across as sort of like a sophisticated businessman type. He's built up an image and an air of respectability, if you will. Now, let's explore the most recent well-known incident involving Arran Coghlan. And this hit the headlines and made big news in 2010. And this revolved around the murder, well, not the murder, I'd say the killing of notorious Manchester gangster Steph Aki, known as Aki. Now, this guy, very nasty, horrible individual. He was said to be a trusted lieutenant within Manchester's notorious Cheatham Hillbillies gang. Now, in 2010, Aki was killed by Arran Coghlan in Arran's own home in Alderley Edge. It made very big news at the time. It was all over the headlines. Very well-known incident within Manchester. Arran was on remand for a number of months, spent some time in jail, went on trial for the death of Aki. He was eventually cleared of the murder, and it was ruled that Arran was acting in self-defence against Aki. So let's dive right into this story. Aki drove a silver Porsche with a personalised number plate. The number plate was Aki, original. And he was a very familiar face within Manchester City's bars and nightclubs. Aki's mob, also known as the Cheatham Hill Gang, are said to have sprung up in the 1980s, carrying out a series of armed robberies before moving into serious drug dealing within the city. Aki became the police's chief suspect for the murder of a 34-year-old man who was shot dead at a house in Crumpsall, Greater Manchester, in February 2002. But he eventually got cleared of this murder, got off with it. Now, Aki was reportedly viewed within Manchester gangland as a sort of elder statesman among the Manchester gangland figures. Now, the murder of the 34-year-old guy in Crumpsall that I just mentioned was just one of a series of serious offences that Aki was accused of, but was never brought to justice for. These included the alleged rape of a woman in January 2010. Now, this woman, who says she was raped by Aki, says that a drink was spiked during a night out at a bar in Stockport. Aki was alleged to have driven the woman back to his own apartment, then raped her viciously at knife point before warning her, if this gets out, I'll kill you. The following month, he died at Arran Coghlan's millionaire converted chapel mansion in Alderley Edge, Cheshire. So guys, that's just a very quick overview in a nutshell of Steph Aki. Nasty piece of work, a very unpleasant individual. The fact that he was killed by Arran Coghlan, not necessarily a bad thing in my opinion, and I don't think the opinion of many others. Not a great loss to the world. So let's talk about how the incident at Arran's house with Aki actually occurred and came about. Now, in February 2010, Aki, who was 44 years old at the time, was wearing body armour and a stab-proof vest when he turned up at Arran Coghlan's house. Now, the reason for this meeting that day was basically Arran was acting as a peacemaker in a row that had been going on between Aki and another guy called Philip Atkinson. Now, guys, honestly, you won't believe the reason for this beef that was going on, but this is the God's honest truth. The reason that Aki and this other guy, Philip Atkinson, were going to war was over who had the right to use the name Aki. So you had Aki Atkinson, and they both wanted to call themselves Aki on the street. That was the beef, that was the row between these two gangsters. And Arran was just trying to act as the middleman, the peacemaker between the two, to stop things from escalating. I mean, how ridiculous and petty is that, guys? You've got two grown men, two gangland figures, and they're going to war over a nickname. Ludicrous. So during this meeting between the two men, the situation turned extremely sour. Arran has always insisted that he acted in self-defence against Stephen Aki, who attacked Arran, tried to kill him. But Arran, during the tussle, managed to get the upper hand, and Akinyemi ended up dead with shooting and stab wounds on February the 9th, 2010. Now, Arran was arrested and charged with the murder of Aki, but eventually the charges were dropped in July that year. An inquest the following February at Warrington Coroner's Court delivered an open verdict. And then a second inquest, which was held in 2017, the coroner gave a narrative verdict, ruling that Arran Coghlan was acting reasonably to defend himself. Now, I've always thought to myself how incredibly lucky Arran was to actually get the upper hand in a tussle or a fight with Aki that day, because Aki was very well known to actually be a great studier of various martial arts. He liked to keep fit. He was a very tough guy. He studied all these books on martial arts. So to get into a fight with him must have been a very tricky situation. And like I said, for Arran to actually get the upper hand and overcome him was very, very lucky on Arran's part, thank God. But yeah, the death of Stephen Aki, no great loss to the world. He was a nasty, evil bloke, vicious piece of work. Good riddance to him, glad to have him off the streets. Arran walked away from it, rightly so, acting in self-defence, as they said. So yeah, good result. In 2016, Arran's £600,000 home in Alderley Edge was ruled by High Court to be seized after the court ruled that it had been bought using drug trafficking money. Of course, Arran fought against this and fiercely denied the allegations, but the court ruled that in the year 2000, when Arran first bought the house, Arran at the time had no legitimate means of income. Just to make it clear, up to now, Arran has absolutely zero convictions for drug dealing or violence or money laundering. He was cleared of the murders of Chris Little in 1996 and David Barnshaw in 2002. And as said, the charges against the death of Stephen Aki were eventually dropped. So, yeah, I think the nickname, the Teflon Don, for Arran is very well earned. He's managed to walk away from some very sticky situations, shall we say. Now, in terms of the legitimate image that Arran likes to put out there, Arran claims he's simply a businessman who works in property and real estate. Funnily enough, I used to know a guy, he was a bodybuilder type bloke. He used to train in one of the local gyms in my area. Really nice guy. Got to know him a little bit, and it turns out that he was actually the driver for Arran Coghlan in recent years. Arran used to pay him quite handsomely just to drive him from place to place, appointment to appointment. This guy from the gym, he was never exposed to any sort of criminality, he never saw anything untoward. He said Arran was a really nice guy, a decent boss to drive around. And like I said, the money was good. But yeah, he never had a bad thing to say about Arran. But he did eventually give up the job for a more stable occupation. So there we have it, guys. That is the story of Manchester's notorious Arran Coghlan. Certainly not a guy to be trifled with or underestimated. A very intelligent, shrewd and respectable individual. I hope you all enjoyed this latest episode of Mob Talk UK, guys. Please like the video. If you've subscribed, I really do appreciate that. Much love and respect to you all. Welcome aboard. I hope you're enjoying the channel so far. So until next time, guys, as always, take care. God bless.